Nothing like a good old-fashioned bug hunt. Set to release exclusively for the Nintendo Switch, Writhe is an arcade-style first-person shooter that puts you in the boots of an exterminator whose mission is to squash an invasion of mutant worms. Ugh. Your goal is to survive the wormy horde as long as you can to earn the highest score. There's a lot of charm in this little bug-splattered indie shooter, but is it enough to earn a spot in your Switch library? What's up everybody, I'm Kirk, and today I'll be taking a look at Writhe to see if it's a Switch delicacy or something that should be stomped on. But before all that, please be sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos featuring wiggly things to shoot. Alright, let's begin. Writhe is the first game developed and published by Mission Ctrl Studios. The developers happen to be a married couple who actually came up with Writhe to celebrate their time in Thailand, which resulted in their engagement. Aww, damn, these two made a first-person shooter to commemorate their love for each other. If that doesn't scream relationship goals, then I don't know what does. Indeed, much of the game is inspired from the couple's time in Thailand. In fact, the game takes place in an alternate Thailand, where a food shortage has led a mega corporation to mass-produce food derived from the sago worm, which is considered a delicacy in the country. In order to meet demands and improve flavor, the sago worms were genetically modified to be much bigger. However, one fateful night, a power failure results in thousands of worms escaping from containment. Fearful of a PR nightmare, the mega corporation hires you, an exterminator, to come and fix their mess. By making one. Writhe visually is a charmer, and quite polished. Built using Unreal 4, the levels are colorful and inviting, populated with rickety shanty structures, overgrown foliage, and crumbling ancient ruins. If you take a second, you might notice some of the nicer, smaller level details, like drying clothes, graffiti, and covered bikes in the rundown level. The game goes for a modern retro look, which suits it nicely. Models are blocky and polygonal, and textures are pixelated with a hint of modern sheen. There's even the option for a pixelated retro or CRT filter, if that's your jam. I love how the worms look too. The design, but also the animation. The way they wiggle and squirm through the environment, menacingly. It's great stuff. I also have to shout out the smaller touches. The way the worms burn away after you kill them, like paper to a flame, and the splatter of bug guts on your visor, that only Samus could understand. The only downside is the pop-in that occurs at the start of gameplay, a curse of most Unreal Engine games, although this is the only time you'll see it happen. Performance-wise, the game gives you a choice between a graphics mode and a performance mode. Graphics mode makes the game prettier but runs at 30 frames per second, and performance mode is not as fancy looking but runs at 60. This was my preference. For the most part, Writhe ran pretty smoothly. I would notice minor frame dips here and there, with more severe drops whenever the maps became too populated, but these occurrences were rare. In terms of sound, the game features an energetic industrial soundtrack that fits the game like a glove. Sound design is adequate. The effects for your weapons sound suitably lethal, and there's some nice environmental sounds here and there. But it's puzzling why my character doesn't seem to be making any noise, not even a thud when they jump around. There's also some sound gaps when it comes to the worms themselves, but I'll get into that a little later. All in all though, for such a small team, this is some talented work, and it gives the game a lot of personality. Gameplay is simple. Survive the onslaught of worms as long as you can. The longer you survive, the better your score, which you can brag about on the game's online leaderboards. Killing worms earns you pink gems. Collect enough and your rate of fire will increase during gameplay. This can happen up to 3 times. I wish I could tell you how many gems you need to collect for this to happen, but unfortunately there's no indication of how many you have on the HUD other than the 3 pink lights at the bottom of the screen, nor any explanation in the game. Little bit of an oversight. The gems also go towards unlocking the game's lore, which is an entertaining read. We're gonna go into this system a little more in depth later, but for now let's focus on the mechanics. Mechanically, Writhe is straightforward but sound. Run, jump, and shoot. That's all there is to it, but it sticks to landing. Movement feels good and fast, jumping, springy, and responsive, and the shooting mechanics are chunky and powerful. Going into a fleshy mob of invertebrates, guns a-blazing, is a satisfying experience. I should mention too, while my build didn't have it, the developers did inform me that gyroscopic aiming will be patched in around launch, and I know a lot of you are fans of that. The game features 2 weapons which your exterminator dual wields at all times. On the left you have a shotgun which will decimate anything at close range, and on the right a plasma assault rifle that is effective at all ranges. Both weapons feel great to fire, nothing to fix here. The only bummer is that there aren't more weapons to play with. It would have been nice to have a few more guns in order to experiment with different loadouts. Currently, Writhe features only 3 levels, which is definitely on the light side, but I have been told that there will be more maps coming in the near future, which will be released for free. The first map is titled Rundown, and takes place in what looks like a shanty town next to a shipyard. It's a cramped level, with a lot of narrow passageways that gives the worms an advantage at ambushing you. I wouldn't have minded if this level was a little more open and gave me some more maneuverability, but to be fair, there's a lot of opportunities to use its verticality to get the literal jump on the worms. The second level is my favorite, the jungle. You have a lot more maneuverability here, able to circle strafe these evil wigglers into oblivion, but you'll still need to be cautious to not get overwhelmed. The final level is the factory, not quite as cramped as Rundown, but not nearly as open as the jungle. This layout is a little more straightforward, with a few corners where you can keep the worms at bay on your left and right. The levels available now are decent, but for future levels I hope Mission Ctrl experiments more with verticality and open them up even wider than the jungle level. I think there's more serious Sam in this game than they realize. Writhe features 3 types of worms that desperately want to nom on your face. There are the standard tan worms, who are easy to kill but can overpower you if you're reckless. Blue worms are explosive, obviously a huge threat, but they can be used to your advantage to thin the herd. Sometimes the tan worms will turn into cocoons. If you shoot these in time, you're rewarded with health. If not though, they hatch into the brown bullworms. Bullworms are faster and harder to kill. Even at close range, your weapons will feel pretty weak against them. Your best bet is to try to get out of their path as best as you can to get the advantage on them, or just prevent them from hatching in the first place. My one overall issue with the worms is their sound design, or lack of it. With the exception of spawning and dying, the worms don't make any sounds whatsoever. The problem? Well, it makes it really easy for these little buggers to sneak up on you, which is frustrating. Most of my deaths in Writhe happen from plain getting blindsided. I'd be focusing on wiping out a horde in front of me when, surprise, an explosive worm would take me out from behind. Now, as the player, I was able to adapt to this by simply keeping my head on a swivel and constantly moving, which is the best way to play Writhe. But it would be good if the worms made some sort of noise, the blue and bull worms especially. Blue worms should have a distinctive sound to them, so that when they get close to the player, they have a chance to hear it and react. To be fair, the bullworms do make a distinctive roar when they hatch. However, the player needs to be pretty close to them to hear it. Nah man, when the bullworms hatch, the roar should be audible to the player from any point in the map. So when they hear it, they know, oh, there's a bullworm that hatched. I need to get to this part of the map so I have a better chance at fighting it. Overall though, the biggest compliment I can give to Writhe is that every time I died, I was eager to smash that retry button and get back into the action. It had me hooked. I had a ton of fun blasting away worms and trying to get my score even higher. For an arcade style game, that's most of the battle right there. That being said, I do have some larger critiques on Writhe that are based on what I feel the game is currently missing. First, the game needs a co-op mode, either online, split screen, or both. Arcade horde-style shooters like this are always better with more people, and I have to be honest, every time I boot the game up and I see the 2 exterminators fighting together on the title screen, I feel like the game is teasing me. Next is the gem system. As explained before, killing worms earns you gems. In gameplay, collecting a certain amount of gems will upgrade your rate of fire. That's it. If you ask me, I think the gem system is a huge missed opportunity. For starters, the rate of fire upgrades that come from collecting gems don't really affect gameplay all that much. Frankly, the first upgrade you'll barely notice a difference. Second upgrade you will see the improvement, but by the time you earn it, the amount of worms you'll be facing are so many it won't feel like it's giving you that much of an advantage. And the third upgrade? Well, unless you're playing like an absolute master, it's unlikely you'll even see it. But the thing is, it's not that I just find these upgrades underwhelming, it's that I feel the gem system could be so much more for this game. I want to point out a game I reviewed last year, another arcade arcade-style first-person shooter called Post-Void. In this game, you rush through a series of levels as fast as you can, shooting enemies to keep your gradually depleting health up. At the end of each level, the player is given a choice of 3 upgrades, which can greatly affect how the rest of your run will play out. Essentially, a simple roguelike upgrade system. Writhe needs something like this. I think when the player collects enough gems, they should be given the option of several random upgrades: faster shooting, bigger clips, different weapons, health, etc. This would allow players to experiment and strategize more, allowing each session of play to feel more unique and essentially give them more of a reason to keep replaying. Obviously, I'm not a game developer, so any suggestion I give should be taken with a grain of salt, but I really think the game needs more iteration in this area, because at the moment, the gem system feels tacked on and inconsequential. I believe if Mission Ctrl fleshes this out more and makes it a key system that allows for some player agency, it could take Writhe from being a game you play for a couple of weeks and then set down, to being a game you obsess over for a couple of months, maybe even longer. Writhe is a fun game. Its mechanics and personality make for an enjoyable arcade experience from a small, fresh developer that clearly has some talent. If you're someone who is hankering for a simple pick-up-and-play arcade experience, then this is something to check out. However, its need for further iteration in the upgrade system, light content, and lack of co-op keep it from being a stronger recommendation from me. That being said, keep an eye on this one. There's a good foundation here, and you never know when something special might wiggle its way up from one of those. Writhe is available tomorrow, January 15th, exclusively for the Nintendo eShop. Please be sure to let me know in the comments your thoughts on Writhe. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share with your friends. It is a massive help for this channel. Still thinking about that Post-Void game I mentioned earlier? Well, check out my review here if you want to know more. I post videos weekly, so be sure to ring that bell so you're the first to see them. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.